Monday the 30th of September, listener. Thank you for joining us. It's going to be a bumper Euro show today. In the studio, top people. Julien Laurens is one.
Bonjour, James.
Bonjour to you, Julien.
Bonjour.
Also with us, Wojciech Szczesny's agent.
Yay, the commission is coming.
We'll see.
James Horncastle.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm. A lot of agency going on among our ranks these days. Yeah. Anyway, good to see you. On the line from Barcelona is Pol Ballús.
Bona tarda. How are you? You okay?
Yeah, pretty good, Paul. A little bit of Catalan there, I detect.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You go from Spanish to Catalan now. You know everything.
You're so talented.
And we'll be hearing from Stafford Bloor very, very shortly as well, because, of course, it's a big week for the German clubs in Europe, for the Spanish, the Catalans, French, the Italians too, all five of them, woof, in the Champions League. And there's Europa League, there's Conference League, all in 1 week. I make it. Is it 54 midweek European games?
That's right, between Tuesday and Thursday.
Madness.
Love football.
Wow. Okay. I mean, we're going to try and pick out some of the fixtures from that. Your Arsenal PSGs, your Leipzig Juventuses, and other delights too. But yeah, there's loads of other things to talk about as well.
That's right.
Not least, moments of the weekend. Who wants to start this week? Who? Paul, you want to start this week?
So excited.
Yeah, I can start this week. I think I'm going to go with Gio Lo Celso. He's a guy that I wanted to speak to you about for a couple of weeks, because I think that he has scored 5 goals over the last 4 games in Real Betis. And I remember watching the game against Espanyol. They won with a Lo Celso winner on the 85th minute. I got it on the fantasy, so double joy there. Gio Lo Celso, who is finding happiness again. I don't sort of have my head around why he wasn't a success in the Premier League. I think he's a really good player, really talented player, that he could have done it in a really good team across the Premier League, but he wasn't lucky for whatever reason. And at Real Betis, he's the king of the party, basically. He's the masterpiece of Manuel Pellegrini's team, and he's starting to prove it, hitting the ground running.
All right, of course, he was at the Tottenham Hotspur, and that is the story of the Tottenham Hotspur.
Maybe.
Not the only European talent to struggle, of course, there in North London. Jules, how about you, the moment of the weekend?
My moment of the weekend is Saturday. We had a Paris derby in Ligue 2, of course, between Red Star and Paris FC, which was pretty cool to have, and we ideally would want one to go up and play in Ligue 1 and face PSG in another derby, but for now we were very happy with this one. PFC won 3-1.
PFC. It's just...
Yeah, is that how we call them?
It's just like Paris fried chicken. It's like, what the hell? You know?
Sure, Paris Football Club. What are you talking about?
It's just like, PSG is PSG, but let's just call Paris Football Club. PFC sounds like something I would wear at a certain kind of nightclub.
That's not the case. In France,
it's something that keeps your fridge cool or something
like that. You play against PFC in France.
Yeah.
You played PFC.
You do.
Yeah. So well done to them. They've got Maxime Lopez, for example, and his brother, Julien, as well.
Right.
So they've got a big budget. They've got like almost a Ligue 1 size budget to try to go up in Ligue 1, and they are the biggest favorite of Ligue 2 to go up, more than Red Star. So they deservedly won that derby. They are top of the table and
top of the table.
Yeah. So well done to PFC, Paris Fried Chicken.
Oh.
James, you've never looked more like a DJ.
I look more like a DJ.
You like had your laptop. You put the laptop screen down so you could twizzle some knobs. You're in a hoodie. You've got these headphones on.
It's true.
It feels like...
Check it out on YouTube. Next up, the sweet sounds of James Horncastle with his Serie A moment of the weekend.
You say you think you know what my moment
I think I know what your moment of the weekend is.
So now I have to think what you think my moment of the week is.
Play along with this at home, listener.
Okay. I think you think it's... What, Nicola Pisilli?
Yeah, that's what I would have said. That's what I would have said. I would have.
Go with that, though. Go with that, though.
Yeah.
I'll do what I think you were going to do before I mind-gamed you.
Okay.
Straight afterwards.
Yeah, so this was Roma's comeback against Venezia at the Stadio Olimpico, where it looked like it was all going to pot for Ivan Juric. That early new manager bounce that he'd had, winning his first game and still getting whistled, and then drawing against Athletic Club de Bilbao on Thursday. But they came back, went super attacking, and Nicola Pisilli, who is the latest Roman-born Roman to come and play for the club, scored the winning goal from a corner kick. It's very nice.
All right. It was a
Sweet moment.
An emotional moment of the weekend for you there. I thought you were going to go with Fenerbahce Antalyaspor.
Well, yeah, I was. Yeah, no.
But we're not allowed to have one outside of our league anyway, no?
Yeah, Horncastle often goes kind of rogue and.
Because I thought we would mention that, but at the end of the show, like we
should we do that later on?
Yeah,
it's a kind of like a kind of throwaway thing.
You've got a laptop. You've got a prop where you could.
I could put this in front of the camera.
You could play.
So if you've missed this, because everybody's talking about it, so you probably haven't listened. James, do you want to do the honours?
Well, Jose is obviously the coach of Fenerbahce. There's this Antalyaspor game. There was a contentious decision he disagreed with.
Offside,
rather than wait for the press conference to talk about it, he got a laptop, pulled up a still, and then went and put his laptop in front of the camera, which usually sits on the halfway line. So the camera could no longer follow the game. It could only look at the image that Jose had put in front of it, which is
pretty brave. Imagine putting your laptop there. You'd be worried, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Close those tabs. But I love how the referee seemed to see this or was made aware of it and ran over and booked Jose straight away.
Jose.
But you cannot keep this man down. Like his creativity is... He finds new ways.
It's the Mourinho show already in Turkey, and it's been like 5 games or 6 games.
Very good. Lovely moments of the weekend. Let's go a little bit more in depth on what's happened over the past few days, and of course look ahead to the midweek action. We're going to begin, Pol, with La Liga. Dramatic scenes at the Metropolitano on Sunday night. La Liga round 6, which saw Barcelona losing their first league game, but Real Madrid visiting Atletico Madrid in a high-tempered affair that finished 1-1 after it had been suspended for about 15 minutes after Atletico fans had thrown objects at Thibaut Courtois. Pol, what happened in the derby?
Yeah, bad news, the worst publicity that La Liga could wait for, basically, because as you said, the game had to be stopped because of the throwing of multiple objects towards Thibaut Courtois. From the Atletico fan base. We have to remember the past that Thibaut Courtois has with the Atletico fan base. He used to play for Atletico. He was a really loved figure. He actually played the Champions League final for Atletico de Madrid against Real Madrid. But since he signed for Real Madrid, he became a hated figure. Atletico fans made it quite clear from the start. They sort of banned the banner that Thibaut Courtois had outside of the Wanda Metropolitano, of the Civitas Metropolitano, the stadium of the club. And Courtois replied them back years ago saying that now he was in the right side of history. So that sort of relationship was broken. But what happened had no excuse or have no justification for what Atletico de Madrid fans did. Courtois celebrated the goal that Real Madrid scored. He was a bit daring with the fans, but I mean
they'd also been chanting for him to die before that. No,
yeah, true, absolutely true. I mean, and I was going to say what Thibaut Courtois did is something absolutely normal and something that is just part of football. But then, the way that the Atletico fans reacted, of course, it's something that cannot be justified. I think that a lot of responsibility has to go down to the club's hierarchy as well, because the Frente Atlético, who are the radical, the ultras of Atletico Madrid, are well known about his past, about his ideology, about the things that they defend. And the clubs has done nothing to detach themselves from the Frente Atlético. They continuously are allowed to be in the stadium, and this is not the first sign of something quite alarming. Let's see how this ends up, because the rank of bans that Atletico Madrid can face is quite broad. This is going to be decided on Wednesday, where the Spanish committee is going to hold a meeting, and the punishments can go from a simple fine to a temporary closure of the stadium. Let's see what they decide. That was the situation. I actually think that Atletico de Madrid benefited quite well from the stop, because it was a break that Simeone used to go back to the dressing room just to reactivate his team. He made a few tweaks that I think that were quite useful for the team, and then Ancelotti went all the defense. He ended up playing with 7 defenders, and I think that basically made the deal for Atletico de Madrid, and they were lucky at the dying minutes just to find this equalizer through Angel Correa.
Right, it was a dramatic finish. Eder Militao was who had given Real the lead before, and that's what Thibaut Courtois was celebrating when the barrage of objects, all sorts of things. There were lighters in there, bags of excrement as well. I read, or at least one shopping bag filled with.
We saw the white plastic bag, but we could not see what was inside.
Couldn't see what was inside it, but that's what they say. Anyway, and then they had the break, and then right at the death, after a number of chances, it was Angel Correa who kind of bundles his way through and gets the equaliser. The reaction from Atletico's some players and manager Diego Simeone when the fans were throwing this stuff, going over there and trying to calm things down. Simeone, though, afterwards, kind of a little bit having it both ways. He says, you see clearly what Courtois did to the fans. That does not justify it, but I'm saying we have to punish those who provoke us too. So he kind of is justifying it a bit.
Yeah. I think this wasn't a great look because, as you were saying, Simeone pointed out to the sort of provocation that he alluded that Thibaut Courtois made to the fans, which is not the reason to justify that. And the look of having two captains of Atletico Madrid plus the manager trying to speak with these sort of fans to call them something, it's not a great look either. I think it's something that the club needs to reflect on. But on that situation, also the players justified themselves by saying something like, look, we had a fire in the dining room of the house and we had to stop it. So we had to go there and just to talk to the fans and try to solve it for a while. And then, of course, broader measures needs to be taken. And that is going to be the scenario now. There's a huge debate on Spain on what are going to be the consequences. But for sure, La Liga has to take it seriously because it's not the first time that Atletico's ultras are involved in these sort of situations and something that is not making any favor to the competition.
Absolutely. What's the phrase? There is a fire in the dining room. Is that a...
You speak Spanish, James.
Is that a popular idiom?
What's in Catalan, James?
Yeah. I'm sure that you know it, but I'm going to repeat it for in case anyone doesn't have your Spanish knowledge. But it's como tener un fuego en el salón, tener un incendio en el salón.
Right. This was also the first ever Madrid derby to feature two Englishmen playing against each other. Paul, how did they get on, Bellingham and Conor Gallagher?
I think that both did quite okay. Conor Gallagher, I don't think that he's going to lose the starting spot anytime soon. He played a really decent game, really good on the ball. He was subbed off when his legs were gone, basically. Simeone wanted fresh legs and he took Conor Gallagher out. So I think that, he is going to stay there for a while. And Jude Bellingham, I think that he has returned from injury really, really well. He's the player that gives the sort of game understanding and the criteria of Real Madrid with the ball. He was really good. I think that his absence over the last few weeks just highlighted how important he is for this Real Madrid side, despite having spent only one season here.
The big absence now for Real Madrid, of course, is Mbappe up front. How long is that going to be for?
He's in the squad for the Ligue game in the Champions League. Yeah.
Is he? Okay.
So it can't have been. We thought that he would not come back before the international break, but it seems like he's feeling much better. He's got a history of recovering very quickly from muscle injuries, to be fair. So maybe it's not too surprising. And also, this is him against his brother, who plays for Lille now. So Kylian against Ethan. The whole Mbappe family is going to be there. And I think when he got injured, it was disastrous for them because they looked forward so much to that day that they thought, it's not going to happen. But now it looks like
there would have been an away. Oh, no.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Conor Gallagher's pride, has that recovered after being nutmegged so ruthlessly by Vinny Jr.?
I think it has. Because of the pride that Atletico de Madrid are just enjoying him. He is being called the Pitbull. I don't know if you know it. They have the Araña, which is the spider in Julien Alvarez, and now they have the Pitbull
surely,
as well with Conor Gallagher.
Surely they should call him Kanya Gallagher. No?
Oh, Jesus. I don't even know how to reply to that.
Okay, let's see. Real Madrid, with that point, move a point closer to Barcelona because the Catalans lost their first game in the league this season. This was away at Osasuna, 4-2, the scoreline there. Paul, what happened?
Flick went a bit too far with the rotations. Basically, that's how I would sum up the story. If you look at the state of Barcelona before the game, you could think that it was sensible that Flick did those rotations, because there were players such as Lamine Yamal, such as Rafinha, such as Íñigo Martínez, who had played everything. They had played every single minute and they needed a rest. But that was a bad place to make rotations, because Osasuna as a stadium is always a tough one. The atmosphere there is fearful, and Barcelona paid the price. I also think that Hansi Flick had in mind the Champions League game, because after the defeat at Monaco, this is a must win. They cannot afford to take it for granted. And despite they are playing against young boys, the start of the season for young boys has been awful as well. I think that they are second bottom in the league, and Barcelona should win it fairly easy. They don't want to take it for granted, because the Champions League for Barcelona and for the fans is really important. They are traumatized in that competition. They've suffered a lot in the past and they want to make it right now.
Okay. Barcelona playing young boys is how they got into this problem at the weekend away at Osasuna, of course. Let's just check out the other games in the Champions League. So you've got Girona are taking on Feyenoord. That's on Wednesday. The Barcelona game with young boys is Tuesday. Real Madrid at Lille Wednesday. How did Lille get on this weekend, Jules?
They won 3-0, hat-trick by Jonathan David.
Okay.
So in good form. Yeah, Angel Gomez will be suspended, though. That's the bad news for them. No Angel Gomez.
What do you think about Lille's chances of...
No, they're just super happy to have Paul and his Spanish friends coming over. It's like, it's literally, they could have sold, so they've got 50,000 seater stadium, they could have sold 3 times the size.
Pierre Mauroy.
Pierre Mauroy, wow. Nice. How'd you say that in Spanish?
Pedro Malrey.
Malrey, not bad.
Muy bien.
And yeah, so it's the occasion, really. They're all so excited. They're taking Florentino to the best restaurant in Lille.
Oh, yeah, where's that?
I don't know the name. They haven't revealed it, but yeah.
If only Rafa was here.
Yeah, even Rafa, I'm not sure he's that familiar with the restaurants in Lille, but no, yeah, it's the occasion. They were so happy. On top of the Kylian, Vieth and Mbappe game.
What will he eat at the best restaurant in Lille? Is there a speciality of the Lillois?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No?
No. Like escargot?
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh. Here's another Champions League game featuring a Liga side, and it's a big one. Atletico Madrid on Wednesday. Oh, I should mention, by the way, Thibaut Courtois is injured for the
but not for much,
Lille.
right,
No.
Paul? Just 2 games, they think?
Yeah? Okay. But he'll miss the Lille trip, apparently, yeah. Meanwhile, Atletico Madrid are going to be at Benfica on Wednesday. Benfica are in a rich vein of form. They ditched Holger Schmidt.
Nice.
And they brought in our old friend Bruno Lage.
Remember him?
I certainly do. I'm sure you do too. Recently at Botafogo, but before that of Wolverhampton Wanderers. And they've been scoring goals aplenty. Beat Gil Vicente 5-1. First match day of the Champions League, they beat 2-1. They beat Sven Schwester 2-1. Say that in Catalan, I dare you.
Angel Di Maria, still going strong.
Estrella Rioja.
Nice.
Very nice. Very
James
nice.
is so impressive. You're disappointing now in your Spanish.
I am
Really,
disappointing. Deludente.
Deludente.
Is that right? Or is it
Yeah.
decepcionante?
Yeah. Décevant.
Decepcionante. Soy un poquito decepcionante.
Muy bien, claro.
Anyway, but Atletico Madrid, who beat Leipzig last time out, didn't they, Paul? 2-1.
Yep. Yeah. David Leipzig. As I was saying, I think that they are getting better and better this season. They got a result last week before the Madrid derby against Celta in a game that they played really bad and they won. Then against Real Madrid, they got a draw in the very last minute. I think that in terms of feelings, they are getting better. But it's going to be a challenge for them to play away from home, because I think that one of the main strengths that they have is when they play at the Civitas Metropolitano, and let's see how they perform away from it.
Okay. Just 3 goals they've conceded in the last 8 matches in all competitions at Atleti. So they're back to being that Atletico Madrid, are they?
Yeah. Although they started playing with a back four against Real Madrid, which is not that very common now. But when they improved is when they turned back to the back five. I think that they've improved a lot with Robin Lenormand, the centre back who won the Euros with Spain this summer. Jimenez is again back in top form. And with these two guys in a really good form, I mean, that's a big boost for the team. Simeone is quite happy with that. And yeah, now it's just time for them just to fix the chemistry up front with Julien Laurens, with Sorloth, and with Griezmann. And once this is done, I think that they have a pretty decent squad.
Excellent. All right, looking forward to seeing how that game goes and all the other fixtures. We'll get on to some more of the big Tuesday, Wednesday Champions League games next. For now, Paul, thank you so much for being with us.
It's been a pleasure. Que vagi molt bé.
Thank you so much, Paul. Lovely stuff.
Cheers.
Bye, Paul.
Right. All right, Champions League match day 2. 18 games, I think.
That's right.
Nine each day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Jules, you're going to the Emirates.
I am indeed.
On Tuesday for Arsenal PSG, which, I mean, there are loads of big games.
Yeah.
Villa against Bayern. Bayern, who lit up match day 1 with that 9-2 win over Dinamo Zagreb. Leipzig against Juventus. Juventus, who do not concede goals.
Yeah. First time in their history that they've gone the first 6 league games without conceding.
Remarkable. And they're actually scoring them now as well. This time. Now they've finally scored some goals. We'll come on to Juve later on. But let's talk about Arsenal PSG, because I think it is the most eye-catching of the midweek fixtures. All right. Arsenal, who were 4-2 winners against Leicester at the weekend. PSG with a 3-1 win against Rennes.
Against Rennes, yeah, very good, because they hadn't been very good in the 2 games before that, against Reims and against Girona in their first game of the Champions League. This time they had the mojo back. They played really well collectively. They could have scored more goals. Bradley Barcola, who had been quite poor in the last 3 games, scored this time 2 goals and was involved in everything. Ousmane Dembélé played great on the right-hand side with Hakimi. So overall, it looked like a perfect evening, right? Except that since then, we've learned that there was a massive clash after that between Luis Enrique and Ousmane Dembélé. We don't know yet exactly why, but to the point that Dembélé was dropped for this game against Arsenal by Luis Enrique. Didn't travel with the squad. He's still in Paris. And one, it's a massive call, obviously, from Luis Enrique, because Dembélé is PSG's best player this season so far. He's the most talented talent. A lot of things go on his right-hand side, go through his right-hand side with Hakimi. So it's a massive call. I guess discipline is very important for Luis Enrique, and if you don't respect the rules in a way, you get sanctioned.
His non-negotiables.
Indeed. So he's out of the picture for the trip to the Emirates. Bradley Barcola, though, with him, a lot of people have been saying that this PSG looked better than they were last year with Mbappe. Would you go along with that?
I think they're stronger collectively when all the big players are there. So when Barcola is on good form, not like in these previous 3 games, but yeah, they are. I think there's still maybe a question mark over how good this midfield is. If you take Vitinha, Joe Neves and Zaire Emery, who are very young, all 3 of them, can they compete with even the Arsenal midfield? If Odegaard was there, for example, I mean later in the competition, for example. I don't know if they can. They have a lot of technical ability and they cover a lot of ground, but they are not the most physical, for example. So it'd be interesting to see. But certainly collectively, I think they're better than when Kylian was there. The only problem I have with it is that there are games where your collective unit or cohesion might not be enough and you need something special from somebody somewhere to do it. And I think Kylian Mbappe is more likely to provide that than Barcola or Dembélé themselves. So this is missing, but so far so good. They're unbeaten, and even when they don't play well, they find a way not losing.
Their games on the road in the Champions League last season were often of that nature, of them needing something extra. And their last trip to England, of course, was the calamity at St James's Park. What was that? 4-1.
4-1, yeah.
4-1.
Yeah, and the 4-2-4 of Luis Enrique just not working out, and him not changing anything because he's that stubborn. So we will see. It'll be a different game tomorrow. I think the team has gone a long way from that. And Arsenal also are not at the strongest because there's no Odegaard. So even if Arsenal have maybe more key players in their team than PSG have with no Dembélé, and Arsenal have to be the favourite, I still think PSG can give them a good game.
No PSG player has scored in their last 3 Champions League matches in over 70 shots.
Yeah, because they had obviously the 2 games against Dortmund in the semi-final last season where they hit the post 6 times but didn't score. And the Girona goal is an own goal.
Own goal.
Yeah. No, but again,
Statistically correct, James.
you're correct.
Well done.
But also,
Muy bueno.
did you know? Sabeste?
Is that Catalan?
I don't know. Sorry. Anyway, did you know Arsenal haven't scored in their last 2 Champions League games either? So I don't know.
You're predicting a 0-0 then?
Well, that's what
right.
happened when Arsenal took on Atalanta.
It can't be
on match day
0-0
1.
this one. It can't be 0-0.
don't know.
Arsenal will attack
What
more
do you
than
think
they
it'll
did
be
in
then,
Bergamo.
Jules?
I think there will be goals. PSG play a very attacking style too. They can't defend. They can't play 11 men behind the ball. That's not what Arsenal are going to do. So I hope, the whole Laurens family is going. So I hope that they see a good game.
The
People are traveling.
Laurensico.
The
That's what
Laurensico.
you were
Although
calling it.
you didn't like it. I had a few messages, people saying, how did James not get it? Maybe it's not good. My wife didn't like it at all. So let's call it the Laurens Derby. So I hope that they see a good game,
Okay.
I hope so too, Jules. What's your take, James, on this match?
On this game?
Yeah.
Well, I expect a lot of Arsenal in the Champions League and in Europe because we've seen how well they've developed into being the only team that contend with Man City, although Liverpool doing that this year. And I just think it's time that Arsenal went on a run. Now I know we're in the league phase; we're still very early in this, but I think they need a statement win. I think against a PSG because they've got everything in terms of that defensive balance that they've got really everything to go far in this competition. So I think they're a more balanced team than PSG.
Yeah, and I think they are ahead, I think, in their project compared to a very young PSG team with Luis Enrique's second season, but with also new players to integrate in the starting 11, for example, Pacho, Joe Neves, those are new players. So yeah, I agree with James.
Okay. That's one of the highlights of the midweek round. Tuesday night, that'll be loads of stuff coming up on the Tuesday. We'll look at some of the other games as we roll around the various leagues. We'll also be catching up on the rest of the events this weekend in Ligue shortly. The Englishman who stopped Olympique Marseille, we'll be hearing about him. But next up, it's Seb Stafford Bloor. Seb Stafford Bloor joins us now. Seb, Bundesliga, you've been busy. You went to see Dortmund do Bochum 4-2, and then you caught the big Bayern clash. How'd that go?
Well, I think it was not as anyone expected, Jimbo, really, because I think if you compare it to last season's game, the 2-2 in Munich, I think you expected Leverkusen to come with a little bit more swagger. And instead, they kind of sat behind the ball, took the lead through a really, really nice snapshot from Robert Andrich from the edge of the box, but then lost a goal to Alex Pavlovic's brilliant half volley. Did you guys see this?
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. Lovely hit. Yeah. And a lovely story, actually, because Pavlovic, born in Munich, raised in the academy, very much a Bavarian, and looks like he's got a home in the heart of that midfield for the next decade. Brilliant player in the
How old is he, Seb?
He's 19. And probably the unluckiest player at the whole of the European Championship. He had a recurrence of his tonsillitis on the eve of the tournament. He's now had them out, so he's safe from that now. But that's a tough one to miss a tournament in your home country at that age. That is
really going to stick in your throat, isn't it? I mean, ironically,
it's hard to swallow.
Ironically, was that the goal of the weekend around Europe? The Pavlovic strike was a beauty. We didn't mention actually with Pol before Zaragoza's amazing goal for Osasuna against Barcelona, in which he bears down on the keeper and then flashes past him in exactly the same way that Timo Werner didn't repeatedly against Manchester United. Your goal of the weekend? Jules?
I like the Lamine Yamal one in that game. I like Edouard McNeil or James Justin in the Premier League. There's a couple of good ones in France as well.
Saul Cocos for Torino. I mean, it's just a great name, Saul Coco.
Saul Coco.
Over the head, kind of hooked. Sort of rovesciata, reverse kick for Torino against Lazio. Nice Samadžić goal in the Atalanta.
That was a nice game. Goal.
Nice goal.
Yeah, very nice. Anyway, so that made it level there at the Allianz Arena. Leverkusen, as you say, sitting back, only had 3 shots in the whole match, which is the fewest they've ever had under Xabi Alonso.
Yeah, some context here though, Jimbo, because I wouldn't say they've received much criticism. That would be too harsh a word, but a few people have started to notice how many goals they've been conceding. And coming to this match, week, they actually had the 4th worst defensive record in the Bundesliga. So a little bit of conversation, and a few of the players started talking about it. Granit Xhaka has mentioned it. It's up our intensity. So in a way, it was quite heartening to watch. I mean, they answered a few questions, because I think Jonathan Tah, who was so formidable at the heart of that defence last season, he's been a little bit ropey, had a bit of a bad time in that game against RB Leipzig a few weeks ago, hasn't looked the same since. Edmund Tapsoba, not quite where he was last season. And yet, in Allianz Arena, they were magnificent. Bayern had a lot of the ball. They looked really, really dangerous around the edge of the box and kind of horseshoed around with possession and sort of had some nice crossing angles. Apart from a Serge Gnabry chance, which he hit the post with right at the beginning of the second half, didn't really create an awful lot. I don't think Harry Kane, didn't really have a touch in anger in the penalty box. Touch in anger is not really an expression, is it? But we'll go with it. Yeah. You know what I mean? He was marginalised. And I think if you'd offered that to Alonso before the game, given where his defence was, I think he'd have taken it. And, a point is a very fine result. And this, I think a point is going to look like a really, really good result in a few weeks' time, because this is a good Bayern side. This is not the team they faced last year that they cut through so easily. It's much changed, much more resilient, much more threat in it too. Michael Elise didn't score, wasn't as impactful as he had been previously in the Champions League and against Holstein Kiel, but he is a menace in so many different ways. So containing Bayern is a tough proposition.
Okay, it's a proposition that Aston Villa will be wrestling with in Wednesday night's clash in the Champions League. Harry Kane was in doubt for that game after limping off in the Bayern matchup.
Yeah, so afterwards, Company was asked about it, and he said, Kane has bisschen Schmerzen, so a little bit of pain. But 24 hours later, Bayern were pretty positive about it. They're not saying an awful lot, but they said that there'd been a kind of a positive diagnosis from their medical team. Haven't commented on whether Kane's going to play, but it doesn't sound like it's serious. Kane himself has said, look, it's a bit sore, but given his history with ankle injuries and difficulties in that area, I think he probably knows the difference between a bad one and one he can shake off. So I think he'll be playing at Villa Park.
They were extraordinary on match day 1, Bayern, and so was he. He scored 4, they scored 9 against Dinamo Zagreb. Do you see them as heavy favourites in this rematch of the 1982 European Cup final with Villa?
Favourites, not heavy favourites. And I think one of the things that is going to be a recurrent theme throughout the season is this defensive partnership at Bayern. So Kim Min-jae, Dayot Upamecano, good players, individually really, really good players. Does that work as a combination? Don't know. It feels a little bit at times like they're too similar. They're too proactive and impulsive. They want to do too much in that part of the pitch, which when you're in a 2 can leave you a little bit exposed. And when you pit that against a team like Villa, who, like Watkins would worry me if I was Bayern, just because of the way he moves and how well he breaks away from the back shoulder of a defender. And there's all sorts of activity happening in front of that defence as well. So you're going to have midfielders moving into the penalty box, move into space. Bayern not so good at dealing with that. And it's going to be an examination. Plus, of course, it's never in Bayern's nature, not now, not before, to be anything other than a front foot side. And so if you're doing that at Villa Park and you're determined not to just sit behind the ball and kind of congest all that space, block up the middle of the pitch, you're going to have to do some defending. You're going to have to do some one-on-one defending. And whilst not quite their kryptonite, that's been pretty troubling for them. So in terms of kind of like technical cohesion, but also confidence, a bit of a way to go for that defence yet, even if the other half of the team is performing really well.
Villa also won on the opening match day of the Champions League, 3-0 away at Young Boys. Or was it 3-1? No, it was 3-0.
Yeah, 3-0.
3-0. Very nice. Do you have strong feelings about Aston Villa Bayern? Should be a great game, James.
I think a great test of Vincent Kompany on the back of facing Xabi Alonso to face Unai Emery. That's it really.
All right.
I have to say, like I'm a big fan of what Kompany's done so far, and I know the circumstances under which he arrived in the job weren't great, and it kind of undermined him from the beginning. But even at the early stage, there's all sorts of little dynamics in that Bayern team which are really intriguing. Like talks about Pavlovic, Kane, Elise, of course, but I think his use of Joshua Kimmich is really interesting. He's got him kind of doing an inverted version of that Toni Kroos role for Germany, where he sits on the right side of the defense instead of the left. And he's got a big diagonal that is being used to kind of really awaken Serge Gnabry, whose form is at its best point in probably 18 months, 2 years. Looks fit, looks healthy, looks confident. Kimmich is playing really nicely in midfield to the point where, I mean, it'll come up again, but João Palhinha, not much of a topic. I think most people thought Pavlovic, Palhinha, Kimmich to right back would have been the call for company. But Kimmich and Pavlovic, which is not really a natural balanced combination, you might think, they look great. They look really, really good. And Kimmich is kind of, I wouldn't say proving a point to Thomas Tuchel, because it's a little bit early to say that, but showing that he can definitely play in those kind of 6-8 roles. And it's working, and Bayern look beautifully balanced.
Okay. The other games involving German sides are all pretty big matches this midweek, because Dortmund are up against Celtic, RB Leipzig against Juve. Bayern Leverkusen, after that 1-1 draw in Munich this weekend, will be hosting Milan. Milan, who were well beaten at San Siro by Liverpool on match day 1, but who've been a rich vein of form in the 2 games since, James, bouncing back nicely.
Yeah, it's the pastéis de nata that Paulo Fonseca's been bringing everybody. This was a bet before the Liverpool game that Carlo Pellegatti, Mediaset journalist who has been around since the Jurassic period. He said, "Look, if you get results in Liverpool in the derby, will you buy us all pastel di nata?" I mean, it should be the other way around, really. Pellegatti has since gone to a shop and bought these on the back of very encouraging performance in a make or break game for Fonseca in the derby. And I mean, they played this system against Liverpool, which worked to begin with for 10 minutes, where they played this kind of 4-2-4 out of possession, super narrow kind of front four with Christian Pulisic playing more inside. In the Liverpool game, it was with Tammy Abraham and Tijani Reinders and Leao. Since then, it's been even more attacking, nominally, because you have Morata in there. So Morata, Tammy Abraham, Leao, and Pulisic. And not only did they kind of glitch into, as we saw last week, but they scored 3 goals in 6 minutes against Venezia on Friday night. Against Lecce. They scored 3 goals in 6 minutes against Lecce on Friday night, and seem to have really got a taste for these pastéis de nata.
Nice,
James. So I'm really excited to watch this Leverkusen game, because again, I think this is okay. It's one thing to kind of catch Inter after Inter have played a really hard game away at Man City, and then back it up by beating Lecce. It's another thing to sort of play Leverkusen in their own backyard with this, what is, on the face of it, a very attacking and aggressive system.
Indeed so. What night's that?
That is Tuesday night, I think.
Tuesday night?
Yeah. At the Rhine Energy Stadion.
Very nice. Of course, Christian Pulisic, who's in such a rich vein of form for Milan, very familiar.
The
Bay Arena. Yeah, that's the one.
What night is that, James?
It's Tuesday night at the Bay Arena.
There you go. A ground that Christian Pulisic, of course, very familiar with from his Borussia Dortmund days. Pulisic is on a rich vein of form, just scoring every game at the moment.
Yeah, plays with great determination. I think the way that Fonseca set up this team, where he's not just kind of marginalised out wide, and yet he's not a kind of straight up number 10 playing off a striker. It's really suiting him, playing in this kind of right half space, 2 strikers occupying centre backs, or Morata's playing fantastic football. He's shaved his head, scored a wonderful header at the weekend as well. But Morata doing this kind of where he'll drop into midfield, link the play. It's not just there to basically run in behind and finish off chances. He's showing like the all-round quality that he's got, and that is kind of freeing up Pulisic, I think, as well, to basically have space, to be able to run at defenders, burst in the holes that are being made by Tammy and Morata. So yeah, 5 goals in his last 5 games for club and country for
very nice.
The man who doesn't like to be called Captain America.
Indeed not. Indeed not. As you say, though, the trip to Leverkusen a different level of a difficulty perhaps to the fixtures that they've been looking so good in. Except moving along to the other Bundesliga sides in action midweek, you went to see Dortmund ahead of their clash with Celtic. You went to see the Bochum game, which started in the worst way possible.
Yeah, it was chaos, Jimbo, actually. It was Dortmund quickly 2-0 down at home. Crowd have they've settled on the idea that there's going to be a little bit of patience required. So they've got, there's a little bit of latitude for Nuri Sahin, having taken over this season. But then Marin Badu, who obviously a couple of years ago we thought was heading right for the top of the game, played for, I had a spell in Monaco, if I remember rightly, but has ended up at Bochum, had a chance to make it 3-0 inside the first half, ran through on goal, pulled his shot wide. And it was just one of those moments you thought, that's going to be relevant at the end of this. Because Dortmund were chaotic. They were creating chances, but attacking with, at times, 5 at the top of the pitch. And every time they lost the ball, chaos. Huge vulnerabilities, so much space, very, very easy for Bochum to break into. And then 1 goal back before half time, 2-2 Emre Can penalty. And then from that point, you could feel this, not sense of security, but a decent amount of momentum. And with the ball, Dortmund have got some nice ideas. Remember when Sahin came in as Terzic's assistant over the last winter break, it was to kind of renovate their attacking ideas and to make them better at moving the ball quickly forward with precision, creating chances, being a little bit more original in possession. And they look at it's a little bit perilous at the moment because, he's pushing players so high that transitions are going to be a problem for a while. I think Celtic are a little bit of a dangerous opponent given the speed they're going to have on the break. But for Bochum, it was too much. 3-2, Sehu Guirassy scored his second of the game. And then if you haven't seen the 4th goal, don't, because it'll make you cringe out your spleen. Felix Nemecha takes a shot from the edge of the box and quite literally squirms under the goalkeeper to the point where there's so much backspin that it just creeps up to the line, goes about a foot over, and then stops right in front of the yellow wall. It's horrible to watch. But 4-2 and probably fair, even though I don't think anybody came away from the game feeling any better about the defence, even if this does look a little bit more of a potent team. Also a better team with Guirassy as the number 9. He looks like he's presenting enough difficulties to defenses whereby the other players around him having a little bit more joy. So it's they're interesting. They're a team to watch. Not sure they're a team to have confidence in, but they're fun.
Nice way to bounce back from that 5-1. Sahin must have been a little bit nerved, the 5-1 defeat against Stuttgart the previous week when they were 2-0 down against Bochum. Must have been a little bit nervous, Sahin. Anyway, Celtic for them. Leipzig take on Juventus. Leipzig, who lost on match day 1-2-1 at the last minute away at Atletico Madrid. Juve 3-1 winners against Dutch champions PSV Eindhoven, which is the only goal that they've conceded in the entire season so far. All their games have either been 0-0 or 3-0 victories, James.
Or 3-1, like this PSV one. But in the league, yes, you're right, James. And it's led people to compare Thiago Motta with Max Allegri, but the way that they are keeping these clean sheets is unlike any way that they've kept clean sheets in the history of Juventus.
How are they doing it?
It's by just keeping the ball. And you can't take it off us. And when we do lose it, we win it back so quickly that it's like you never had it in the first place. And look, I mean, it can make Juventus look quite sterile sometimes because it's like they're keeping the ball for keeping its sake. But it's been so effective. I mean, this isn't a Juventus team that has the back line of, Thuram, Cannavaro. It's not got, Scirea and Gentile. It's not got, the more recent BBC who were at Buffon's wedding this weekend.
Oh, nice,
Chiellini, Bonucci and Basali. But it just works really well. Kalulu's been a really good pickup on loan from Milan. It's kind of mad that Milan let him go. And then you've got Brema, who is probably the best centre-back in the league at the moment, signed a new deal. And then kind of rotational pieces coming in next to him. The former bricklayer, Federico Gatti. But it's really how good they are with the ball even further forward, which is making them look good. I mean, in the win at the weekend against Genoa, some people thought they were facilitated by the fact that they got an early penalty not an early penalty at the start of the second half. Vlahovic scored, and then Genoa just had to come out and take risks. And there was a feeling that had they not got that penalty, was another 0-0 on the cards, because they created very little in the first half. But Vlahovic scored a wonderful second goal. Then did a kind of talk gesture with his hands to suggest that people had been talking too much about him not scoring in the last 3 games. He's top scorer in Serie A, along with a few others on 4 goals. Which we might get to the other members of that in the Serie A.
Probably we will. Might
tomorrow
touch on the circumstances. Of why that game was played COVID style in an empty stadium. Seb, Leipzig, they're going to be the team trying to score only the second goal this season against Juventus. Thoughts?
Yeah, well, more positive than they were before the weekend, because Leipzig have been through a bit of a barren spell. I mean, prior to this weekend, they got outplayed by St. Pauli in Hamburg. Very, very lucky not to lose, but looked a lot better this weekend against Augsburg. Really gave Augsburg a battering, actually. Šeško was excellent. Openda looks a bit more dangerous. Xavi Simon scored his first goal of the season. Really nice cut volley to make it 4-0. So, yeah, I still think, as ever with Marco Rose's Leipzig, can't quite trust them. You don't know what Leipzig are going to turn up. They're not... They're dangerous. Clearly, they have threat, but they don't have that sort of metronomic quality that you need really to depend and rely and trust a team yet. But they've got the tools.
Alrighty. There you go. RB Leipzig at home to Juventus.
Yeah.
At home to Juventus this midweek. Seb, magnificent stuff. Enjoy the midweek football. Look forward to catching up with you again next time around. And next up, we'll move on to Ligue. In France this week. In France this weekend, PSG beat Rennes 3-1. Tick, done that.
Yeah.
Monaco.
Oh, beautiful for the anniversary.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Monaco beat Montpellier 2-1. So they still share the lead with Les Parisiens.
That's right.
But you know who's not sharing the lead with them anymore? Marseille. That's who, because they lost for the first time this season. Lost to Liam Rosenior's Strasbourg. Ooh. How's Liam doing there in the Alsace?
Really well. I mean, they haven't been perfect. They lost games at Lyon, for example, 4-3 when they were very good but a bit naive defensively. They're a very young team. He's a very young coach. We saw against Toulouse as well last weekend, again dropping points because they were a bit naive. This time they played great for an hour because they pressed really high. They are a very high energy, intense young team. And he was very happy the way they pressed Marseille, didn't let them play. De Zerbi really could not find any solutions to it. The last 30 minutes was a little bit more difficult, and Marseille had a couple of good chances. But overall, Strasbourg deserved to win. They've got higher XG and everything. And Liam is doing a really good job.
There were some great chances for Marseille. The Strasbourg keeper, who's that?
Yeah, Petrovic from Chelsea.
Oh, right.
One big save especially.
They're all from Chelsea.
You know who?
Yeah.
They're all from Chelsea.
They are from Chelsea, yeah.
They are
because Diego Moreira scored the goal, former Chelsea player as well. But yeah, and I saw Leroy Rosenior, who's our friend obviously at the Premier League today. And I said,
Not from Chelsea.
Not from Chelsea. I said, I'm so happy for Liam, for your son.
Right.
And he said, yeah, it was great. I just spoke to him now. He was buzzing after the win. It's a big win. Marseille hadn't lost this season. They look very good under De Zerbi. And that's a little bit of a like stop for them really in that progression. But there will be more games like that where they struggle maybe to put their game in place because of the opposition's press. And they will have to find a solution which they could not do on Sunday night.
Indeed not. Strasbourg are in 8th spot. Very nice.
That's good.
Yeah,
and they could be higher. I think the last season they had a good start, but the last time they scored that many goals after 6 games was when they won the league in 79-80.
Really?
Yeah.
It's Todd Bowley and Bedat Igbali. They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
Who else knows what they're doing? Will Still, that's who. Still unbeaten.
Still unbeaten.
With Lens.
Yeah.
He's up in 6th place. They held Nice. You remember Nice?
Still not loving on Nice.
Don't know how they did on corners, Nice. Hitting the corners.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not getting any goals with them against...
No, and Frank Hayes, the former Lens manager, going back. Now Nice going back to Lens. It was lovely. There was a lot of it was a bit of a love-in.
That's good.
Yeah, and Lens playing really well. Really, really well. Should have won the game. Didn't in the end. It was a 0-0 draw, but one of those good 0-0 draws.
Good one, yeah.
That you see in Italy a lot. Love. Exactly. Love. And Lens play Strasbourg next week.
Oh, yeah.
And Nice play PSG. So, we'll know a bit more about those two teams.
But the
Lens
English
and
manager
Nice.
derby.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. That should
Monaco
be fun.
Montpellier. There was a lot to love in this.
Very much so, including Lamine Camara's last-minute goal to make it 2-1.
98th minute. Wow.
98 minutes.
It was kind of funny goal, though.
It is a funny goal, yeah. He's a very, very good player. 20 years old, really, really good. And the stadium erupted.
As only the Stade Louis II can.
Because it was the occasion. It was the 100th, the centenary. Centenary, is that what you said?
Centenary, yeah. What did they have a lot of things before?
Yeah, loads going on. Former players, coaches. Arsene Wenger was there. Marco Simone was there. Jean-Luc Ettori, Delio Onis. They even had the guy who's 89 now, who won the double in 63, which is the only double in Monaco's history, who was there. So it was just a lovely occasion, and they wore this very special, lovely shirt for the occasion again. And it's good that they won. It would have been okay had they drawn, but they deserved to win. They had so many chances. And we said before, Adi Hutter doing a really, really good job. And now they level with PSG at the top, 3 points clear of Marseille. So it's a very good start.
It's their best start since 1960.
Yeah, that's right. So even the seasons where they won the league previously, like in the Jardim, Mbappé, Falcao year, 16-17, they hadn't started that well. So
wow, okay. Monaco will be in Champions League action themselves on Wednesday. They travel to Dinamo Zagreb, who are still smarting, you'd imagine, from that 9-2 humbling by Bayern Munich on match day 1.
Yeah. But that's the game Monaco should win, even away from home, even in a hostile environment.
Okay, Lille have Real Madrid, and PSG, we heard, are going to be heading to Arsenal. So, okay. There'll be some Europa League and Conference League action for French sides. Perhaps we'll get onto those games next. Europa League is match day 2. A lot of games here as well. Can you get your head around it, James Horncastle?
No, James.
Can you?
I can't quite believe we're still here. We're still talking about football, And
what about Brest? Your favourite club. Brest are playing in Europe as well. Don't forget.
Yeah, who've they got?
They
won their first game.
They won the first game. Remember that?
Yeah.
Against Pep Linders' RB Salzburg.
There you go.
No, against Sturm Graz.
Against the other one.
Against
the other Austrian team.
But this time they play away at Salzburg.
Okay, and they will win because I predicted that.
And they got spanked at the weekend, and Eric Roy was not happy at all. He shouted, gave the hairdryer treatment.
Okay.
So we'll see, and he's going to bench some of his key players apparently for the game on Tuesday, maybe? Yeah, Tuesday.
Really? They're playing on Tuesday?
Yeah.
The hairdryer in French is a shampoo, no?
That's shampoing.
Yeah. Okay.
Hairdryer is a sèche-cheveux, as in to dry your hair. Sèche.
No, but when you give a hairdryer,
manager gets upset.
is it not like you give them a shampoo?
No, we don't have a word really for
Really?
hairdryer treatment. Yeah.
Really?
No, I don't think so.
Huh?
I need to think about that one.
Okay.
That's what you meant. I didn't understand.
Yeah. That's what it says.
Anyway, Europa League match day 1 saw all sorts of interesting things like Roma drawing 1-1 with Athletic Club de Bilbao, Man United drawing 1-1 with Twente, Lyon beating the Europa Conference League holders Olympiacos 2-0.
Yeah.
Bodo Glimt, this was an upset,
Horny's team.
defeating Porto 3-2, and your team, Jules, Ajax,
Yes.
defeating Jovan Broncos Besiktas 4-0.
Yeah.
Ajax are going to be heading to Slavia Praha. Porto hosts Man United. That should be fun. Rangers are up against Lyon. What's that look like, Jules?
That looks good, I think. Rangers winning at the weekend against, I thought, for the people who watched the game against Hibernians, really good Hibs team too, to be fair. But Rangers were good, and Lyon had a miraculous win at Toulouse at the weekend, by the way, on Sunday.
Okay.
They had one shot and they scored 2 goals. That's how bad they were. But Stonewise finding a way, although he even said himself after the game, we'll have to do more next time, otherwise we won't win again. I said, yeah, definitely. But that's one of the best games on Thursday, I think.
You think Rangers Lyon? Because I've been eyeing up Lazio Nice.
That's
Lazio
good as well.
are good at the moment.
Yeah.
Lazio are good.
Because
very good with the French players.
Lazio went to league leading Torino at the weekend and beat them 3-2, James.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are quite down on Lazio going into this season because it was kind of the end of an era for them in that Ciro Immobile left for Besiktas, Felipe Anderson went to Palmeiras, Luis Alberto went to play in one of the Arab Emirates. So the guys who basically put Lazio back on the map with winning cups and getting into the Champions League, they were gone. And they were replaced with guys from Salernitana, so Claudio Lotito's other club, which isn't his other club, and Hellas Verona, a team that's kind of been circling the drain of relegation. They appointed Hellas Verona's coach, Marco Baroni, and they play with two strikers, Bouladia and Tati Castellanos. And they've been great. They were great against Milan. They were 2-1 up in that game. They were, I think, 1-0 up against Fiorentina. So they should have more points than they've actually got in the league. And played well against Dinamo Kiev.
3-0.
Yeah,
they won that. Yep.
So don't sleep on the Laziali.
There you go. And Nice, as we just heard, held 0-0 by Lens.
Yeah, away.
Last weekend.
And they drew in their first game against...
It's Europa League. Who remembers at this point?
No, I do, because I've watched that game, but they're all mixing up in one.
Hang on a second.
No, I've got it here.
Real Sociedad.
That's it.
Real Sociedad. You want to say that?
They drew in the first game against Real Sociedad at home, where they should have won. They missed a penalty. They were really, really good, and that's just where they are now. I think Lazio would be a massive test for them, but they're good. But there's just something missing, whether it's defensively or offensively, just to be very good and be able to win those kind of games. Whether it's away at Lens, Lazio, Real Sociedad, they're still a little bit short, I think. So they just need a bit of a turning point somewhere.
I hear that Antoine Griezmann has decided to hang up his French jersey.
That's right, Jimbo. This morning he announced it on social media. He called Didier Deschamps before. He said that only his sister Maud, who is his agent, and his wife Erika were in the confidence. No, in
his little circle of trust.
Yeah, only them knew, nobody else. And at 33, after 137 caps, 44 goals, this is the end. More than 10 years with the national team. Incredible servant to the team to start with. Wonderful player. The last year also has been a bit more difficult. For example, he really felt hurt when Deschamps didn't give him the armband after Hugo Lloris retired and gave it to Kylian Mbappe instead. I think things were not the same after that. He had a poor Euros too. And I think he feels like this is just the end of that chapter, that he gave his best and that right now there's just no need for him to stay with the national team. I think Deschamps didn't try to convince him to stay. So it'll be very different without him. He has this incredible record of playing 84 France games in a row, which I don't think anybody will ever beat this record. It's not just a French record, it's like an all-time, all countries record. So nobody has ever played that many games intersection for their country. Just, an amazing player, such a great guy, and I think we will miss him.
Yeah, well, him being not in the same form as the World Cup at the Euros certainly made France look like a different team.
Absolutely. So he will have to be replaced. I am rooting for Michael Olise to be that number 10 and play centrally instead of playing wide like he does at Bayern, and to be this super creative flair player like Griezmann was. So I'm hoping that Deschamps is listening to this show. Didier?
Okay, all right. Well, loads of games coming up. There's also Conference League, mostly on Thursday, but some of those Europa and Conference League games creeping, I think, into the Wednesday. Too much for us to go through here. Let's just finish off then today with a quick nod to one or two of the other stories from Italy, including why they played at an empty Marassi this weekend. Serie A has got 5 teams within 2 points of each other. Napoli are on top, point behind them. You've got Juventus. And then below them, Milan, Inter and Torino. Only 2 teams are unbeaten still after 6 matches. They are Juventus and Empoli, rather surprisingly. Napoli, we talked about what they're up to under Conte a little bit last week, but they continued that rich vein of form with a 2-0 win over Monza this weekend after putting 5 goals past Palermo last midweek in the Cup, which saw a debut Napoli goal for McTominay.
That's right. Scotty McTominay. Let's get that number 10 shirt unretired. He came on and scored. It wasn't like he started. Billy Gilmour started, played the...
Got kicked in the head.
Yeah. Conte still can't pronounce Billy Gilmour's name, which is kind of quite funny, given he pursued him all summer. But that's Man City, Palermo, that they put 5 past. So, not a team without a budget and structure and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, 4 different leaders in 6 weeks in Serie A. Napoli
which one's going to stick, do you think?
Napoli.
Yeah. Since that opening day defeat against Verona when they went down 3-0, they have scored 16 goals and conceded just 1. Proper Conte.
4 clean sheets in 6, and they have changed system. They've been playing this 4-3-3 since the Juventus game, and it's working for them. Even when he rotated his team against Palermo, didn't skip a beat. You could say, okay, it's second division team, but as I've just mentioned, Palermo pretty well invested in, and made fairly light work of Monza at the weekend, and now they've got quite an easy set of fixtures, and of course they're not in European competition.
I was going to say, so that's
so
a
they
massive
can just
plus.
rest, recuperate, and everyone else is, I wouldn't say inconsistent, but Inter are leaking more goals than they've done certainly last year. You've got Juventus, who are maybe not intermittently alternating these 3-0 wins with 0-0s. And you can't really give Napoli, any Conte team, a chance really, because they will run off into the distance, these Conte teams, at least in Italy. So everything looking hunky-dory, apart from Lukaku, who, there's been some, he was on the margins against Juventus, he was on the margins in the game against Monza, and so if anything, it's like, can Conte get him to click again?
Right.
But the fact that they're still winning and he's not is, pretty ominous for the rest of Serie A.
Indeed. So, Inter, 3-2 winners away in Udine, with Lautaro Martinez getting a brace, his first goals of the season. Frattesi opening the scoring there. Inter are going to be hosting Crvena Zvezda.
That's right.
And the other Serie A team we should talk about, James, not least because you wrote a large piece about them this week, the side that Liverpool are going to be facing on Wednesday in the Champions League, and that's Bologna. James, tell us about Bologna.
Well, it's the team that qualified for the Champions League first time in 60 years, so first time they've ever been in this competition as it is now. And they were a revelation under Thiago Motta last year. Motta's obviously gone to Juventus. Some of their best players, Riccardo Calafiori's gone to Arsenal, Xerxes gone to Man United. But, they're a team that, they've got the recruiter who was in charge of Chievo when Chievo went up from the 4th division all the way to the Champions League. And obviously was at Atalanta when Atalanta started building teams that go into the Champions League. So that's what you're kind of reckoning with. Motta's replacement, Vincenzo Italiano, it's been quite a slow start for them, but you can see why they went for him, because, this is a guy who has achieved an awful lot, sort of on the down low, kind of sotto voce, took over a team called Asignano in the 4th division, got them promoted in his first year, but they went bust, so they had to start all over again. He went to Trapani, got them from, I think, Serie C to Serie B. Went to Spezia, got them from B to A for the first time in their history, kept them up as well. And Thiago Motta replaced him at Spezia, kept them up, and then ever since those two guys have left, Spezia have been in a lot of hell. And then he went to Fiorentina, got them into Europe for the first time in 5 years, and led them to 3 cup finals, Coppa Italia and 2 Conference League finals.
Didn't win any of them, but
No, but like if you're looking at, I mean,
100%.
year-on-year career
progression.
progression.
Progression is good.
So, and this is someone who, having been in the Conference League and gone all the way in the Conference League without winning it, as you said, he knows what it takes to alternate playing in Serie A and getting into Europe in Serie A and having a deep run into Europe. So we'll have to see if they can improve on their 0-0 against Shakhtar on match day 1 when they go to Anfield.
Well, Liverpool, who did okay against their last Italian opponents, running all over Milan at San Siro. Do you see Bologna troubling them at all?
I think it's tough. I mean, they've got this, one of the players that they signed to replace Zirkzee is called Thijs Dallinga, who came from Toulouse, and he scored home and away against Liverpool in the Europa League last year. But Thijs hasn't had a good start with Bologna.
He didn't start well for Toulouse at the time either, in Liga.
But this guy they signed in January, Santiago Castro. Castro is playing well. He scored in his last 3 games.
Scored against Atalanta at the weekend, the 1-1 draw.
Scored a really nice goal from outside the box. He looks very lively. So yeah. And then there's Riccardo Orsolini, who's like yeah, Orsolini, I think, has had seasons that have been as good as the stuff that Chiesa's put together in seasons without any of the hype that Chiesa gets, because he's not called Chiesa, he's not the son of a former footballer, but he's a Bolognese doc, he's well loved in that city.
Nice.
And then the other guy is Dan Ndoye, who had a good Euros with Switzerland as well. So let's see.
Okay. All right. A lot to look forward to.
That's right.
James, you said we should talk about behind closed doors.
Oh
of
my
Marassi.
goodness! Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So
That was strange.
To finish off,
Yeah.
behind closed doors this weekend, Genoa against Juventus. This is after the Coppa Italia clash in Genoa last midweek.
Which was a derby della Lanterna between Genoa and Sampdoria. Obviously, Samp in Serie B. Samp sacked Andrea Pirlo, replaced him with Andrea Sotil. It's always naughty anyway when these two teams meet, but there's been a lot of aggro with one club passing the other on the way up, because Genoa got promoted when Samp went down. And before this Coppa Italia game, I think there were 19 arrests, sort of flares being thrown, police injured.
50 people injured, I think, in this, in clashes between the two sets of the two tifoserie.
Yeah.
And the authorities have immediately given Genoa and Samp, I think, a stadium ban.
Yeah.
I mean, not a stadium ban, but a behind closed doors kind of edict.
Yeah. So that's why the Juventus game was held in front of no fans apart from some kids who were let in. It's been a kind of a month of naughtiness, I would say, with ultras, because as we go to air, sort of 19 arrests, sort of breaking up the Curva Nord and the Curva Sud at San Siro between Milan and Inter ultras on kind of racketeering investigation.
Racketeering the club? No,
just like organised groups.
But outside of, nothing to do with the clubs themselves.
Well, there are wiretaps that are being leaked as part of this investigation, in which you have, for example, an Inter-Ultra ringing up Simone Inzaghi saying, we've only been given 1,000 tickets to go to Istanbul for the Champions League final. Come on, we got to get some more.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. We speak to Zanetti. We speak to the chief executive, Marotta. You've got the wiretaps from some of the Milan ultras saying, we're really pushing for Antonio Conte to be the next coach. They clearly didn't succeed. So yeah.
But if you want a breakdown of the power and indeed the whole business structure of being an ultra, which is not just necessarily a sporting passion, you could perhaps listen to the 2-part Golazzo special we did on the whole phenomenon of the ultra universe, which is kind of out there in the ether.
It is.
It is. Very good. That wraps it up, though, for today's Totally Football show. Many, many thanks to Seb and Pol, who joined us earlier. Jules.
Thank you.
And James and Rachel and Lucy in the booth. And you, listener, if you're still there, we'll be back next Tuesday. Might try and streamline it a bit for you, because this has been a long one.
Was it long?
I feel like it was a long one.
It felt so good. It felt quick.
Yeah. We'll be back next Tuesday. Loads of Totally in the meantime, so do join us for any of those if you feel like it, but otherwise we'll catch up with you here in a week. For now, from all of us here, it's goodbye. The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.